Hello, good evening. Tonight in English with my friend Caroline Stephens from United Kingdom. Caroline, good evening. Hello, welcome to my page. Um,
Uh,
first of all, uh,
yep.
first of all, I have to apologize you for my English. It's not perfect because I didn't practice English a long time ago. So I will have to remember the words. If I forgot some words, you have to help me. We will have a kind of interactive interview because this is not an interview. This is a talk because Caroline will ask me some questions. I will ask some questions to Caroline. But first of all, I want you to introduce yourself for our followers in Portugal, for your followers in United Kingdom. Can you talk a little bit about yourself, Caroline?
Boa noite.
Yes, boa
Uh,
noite in Portuguese. Yes, I will
means
help you in
good
Portuguese.
evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Obrigado. So basically, thank you for that introduction. And there's only one other set of words that I know. So thank you, Sergio Tavares. And to the people watching back in the UK, it's Caroline Stephens, Seeking the Truth. And I'm having a chat with Sergio. He's a journalist in Portugal, and he's recently been to Sweden. And that's why we're doing the show tonight. We're going to exchange some views because I personally believe that we need to unite. If the globalists are united against us, we need to be united against them. So, who am I? Some people still ask, who is Caroline Stephens? She is a housewife, and I went into politics after having children and ended up by campaigning for financial education, believe it or not, in schools and encouraging children not to go into debt, to actually save. So this is a very northern, and particularly northern people have always had this, dare I say, ingrained in them from being children, you know, with the piggy banks and saving. And of course, I just saw things just going. It was getting very messy. Children were spending and becoming indebted. So I was going into schools, encouraging children to save. And then I went to a political meeting. It was organised by UKIP, and I learned that whilst I was encouraging our children to save money, our government, on the other hand, was wasting their legacy effectively by spending, well, they reckoned it was £55 million each single day just to be members of a club, which I didn't really see a great deal of benefit from. So I basically joined a political party. And of course, I realized now that the elites had set up the party system just to split us up, just to keep us divided, in the same way as we have different newspapers, different football teams. There's always this rivalry, I think, with a lot of people. If they feel they get to feel very strongly, it's the way the media portrays it. And you've been a journalist, you'll know how the strings are pulled. And so basically stood for Parliament. I actually stood to become a member of Parliament in the general election of 2015. Yes. After that, I basically became the campaign manager for the Brexit referendum. Yeah, the campaign manager for the whole of the UK for one of the two main Leave groups, and I travelled to Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and shared platforms with MPs. Sometimes it would be myself against their local MP, and quite often they would want to stay in the European Union. And sometimes it would be a whole platform of people. But then I was also, you know, during the week as well, I was going out and doing the stalls with the activists and help set them up, the stalls, and help them really have courage to approach people sometimes and have a different perspective on what, you know, people are all different. And it's very easy for people who really, really want to leave the European Union to have maybe a set agenda, if you like. So mine was my position was to widen their horizons and be able to debate with people in the street, and that's what I did. And then after that, I had a chance meeting at a conference with somebody who had their own film studios, and I presented my own set of shows for a few months. And last year I started off on my own and doing my own shows. And, you know, as we said before off air, I've been taken down off YouTube, and you know, and of course I've been banned as much from Facebook this year as actually been on Facebook. So me too. And you're banned. You've been banned, yeah.
Yeah, I have the same problem here. But you are now fighting against corruption of the government. How is that working for you?
Well, you know, it's highlighting, it's reading the documents. It's sort of challenging. I always said, I spoke in Denmark after the referendum. Their oldest newspaper said, Caroline, if you get anywhere close, that is Britain, this is, to voting to leave, we'll have you over and we'll put you up 2 nights in the hotel and come and speak to our people. And so that's what I did. And I said at that time, I promised that I would always hold the government's feet to the fire. And it wasn't very long after that I really believed that the government were never going to deliver. They were going to renege on their agreement. They were going to renege on that referendum. And it's been very hard, because when you can see things so clearly yourself, having come from a political background and seeing how duplicitous, how corrupt the MPs are, and how I've shared platforms with MPs from all the parties, and because I had to, you know, stand in my own constituency, my own area, it's like I could hardly believe what they were saying some of the time, because it was just lies, and I struggled with it for a while, because I couldn't do what they were doing. And I guess if I hadn't have had that life experience, I would never have believed what really goes on behind the scenes. So enough of me, because I'm sure. But there's people that are following you that have never heard of me, and that's I've interviewed one of your contacts before, Jose, and we've had some chats, and we keep in regular contact, and we talk about the King of England and the Queen, and the problems we have associated with the Crown Corporation.
But now, Caroline, we have higher problems than corruption, because we have COVID, we have the pandemic, and this pandemic brings a lot of problems around all the world and around Europe. In Portugal, we have less problems than you and UK, I think, but we are fighting, both of us, for the same, for freedom, for the truth, and me in Portugal and you in United Kingdom. Let me just make a small introduction about myself with my not perfect English. I'm also a teacher like you, but I became a journalist in Asia, in a small island called East Timor. I was invited to work in a national Portuguese radio, to be the international correspondent of Radio Renascença. And then I became a journalist, being a teacher with my degree in education. I also became viral. I became viral on in the internet, because in September I was in a protests in Lisbon, and some 2 minutes of my speech went viral around Portugal and Brazil, but millions of shares and millions of views, because I told the truth. I told them something that put everybody thinking about the flu, about the deaths in the past years with respiratory problems. and I went known in Portugal after that intervention on the protest in Lisbon. And now I created the page, the Portuguese page, Journalists for the Truth, Jornalistas pela Verdade. I have thousands of followers, and I try to show to the Portuguese people the news, the real news about the pandemic that the newspapers and the TVs doesn't show, because in Portugal we have a huge problem, Caroline. It's unbelievable, because all the TV channels, all the newspapers, they speak the same language. They are all talking the government language. They don't show the other side of the pandemic, and that's frightening. And we fight against that, and we show on on our page, Facebook page, that is banned for 30 days until 17 December. But we try to show the truth behind this pandemic. And my head here is for sale and for kill, because I'm a really activist of this cause. We have some different objectives, because I know that you believe that this is also this makes a part of a big conspiracy like the Great Reset. I have different views about that, but my fight in Portugal is to get to fight against unemployment, to get the jobs, to return to the jobs to the persons, and the freedom of the people, because in Portugal we have partial lockdowns, and the medical assistance, because they are dying thousands and thousands of Portuguese non-COVID with no coronavirus, because the lack of medical assistance. So this is the three fights that I'm doing in Portugal. About Sweden, I went to Sweden last week, and I'm going to China. I'm going to Wuhan in two weeks to show everything, to see what is really happening in the world. So after, before you ask me a question about Sweden and everything, I have to ask you directly. So you know that this is not a medical problem. The pandemic, coronavirus pandemic, is not a medical problem. It's a political problem. Can you tell everybody why you think that?
For a start, they have not been able to isolate this COVID-19. They can't test for it. And there were even articles in the newspapers from with Matthew Hancock saying it doesn't matter that we can't isolate. So basically it's to catch everybody who's got flu. It was actually quoted, and I find the article now, it seems to have disappeared, but he actually said it does not matter. That should tell people a lot about what this government's like. We know that 40 Nightingale hospitals were built. They would have needed planning permission. They would have needed contract work, putting out work for tendering work to find out who was going to do the job. They just did not appear in 24 hours. You can't build hospitals. I know people who work in the refrigeration industry, and they were approached about mortuaries way beginning of last year. It takes time to plan something like this. A lot of those Nightingale hospitals have never actually been used yet. But then, you get floored by people when you say, well, you can't isolate it, you can't test for it. And 95% have actually all got underlying conditions. Most people were over 70. Of course, we had the debacle, if you like, with the care homes, where the government purposely sent people with flu back into the care homes, and that would infect other people. But I've actually done shows where I've read, real life stories of people who said, my brother had a heart attack. He'd never been tested for COVID, for flu, and yet they insisted at the coroner's office that they must put it as COVID. Now, after the first lockdown, I met a lady in the street. She was saying to me, well, these people get paid, the health authorities get paid £13,000 per death if you have COVID on the death certificate. So that is a big issue. Now, I think we're on the same page, totally on the same page, because you've mentioned 3 points. I'm concerned about the I come from a pension. The economy, because when I left school at 18, I didn't go to university because I thought, why? Unless you know what you really, really want to do and you really need to have a degree to do it, I might as well go and find out what work is like. And I actually learned on the job. I actually had an apprentice in an office and I worked my way up to becoming a manager. But it's like, why do I look at my own real life experiences and I think, why is it that the university system has been encouraging and the government's been encouraging? And of course, it's a business. So you get all these students. When I was going into the schools and encouraging the children not go into debt, I mean, when we left school, we could maybe get a small grant, a subsidy, a bit of help. Now they're just going into debt. And they will never be, most of them will never, ever really be able to clear the balance sheet. And that was before COVID. So basically, we have just had house prices in the UK going up. And I saw at Christmas them purposely, the media purposely building up, houses should go up in price and demand and supply, and it's all been manipulated, and I could see it so clearly. So the job situation, they don't want, the elites don't want us to own anything. I can see that. We don't actually own our own car and our own house, because when I've been doing this truth, these interviews, I learned so much that, if you look at your car document, it says you are the registered holder. So they've got you in this matrix where you spend all this money or borrow all this money to buy a car, and you have to tax it and insure it. And basically, it's not technically your car. Same with the house as well. So there's that side of things, the economy. Where are these nice jobs? I mean, I've just been reading, we've got the Conservative Party in power at the minute, and that was all orchestrated. And if people cannot see by now, all the other political party leaders were either blackened. For example, the Labour Party was blackened in the papers on a trumped up Semitic charges. And I say trumped up because that was put into the mix just on the run up to the general election. So they basically, which was at the end of last year, so they basically purposely made people switch from Labour to Conservative. And also the other party leaders, they said, the Tories will deliver. And they actually actively asked their supporters to vote Tory as well. So it's no illusion now. It should not be an illusion to people that, yes, political parties take your sovereignty and give it to a corporation. And we will never, and yet people will keep going on about, let's set up a political party. If you bang your head against a wall, it hurts. But why do you want to keep doing that, Sergio? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes. That doesn't make sense. I have to ask you two more questions before you ask me your questions, because to know the differences about Portugal and United Kingdom. Because in Portugal, about the media, I want you to ask you if United Kingdom, all the newspapers, all the TVs are talking the same language, are like in Portugal, that they don't show the other side of the pandemic. If there is any one newspaper, one different TV, or all on the same language. And the second question is about the medical assistance, because in Portugal, people are getting afraid to go to the hospitals, and people are dying at home. We have this is the year with most excessive deaths from the last 10 years. We have 5,000 deaths, non-COVID, not COVID, but that from people that died at home, that they are afraid to go to the hospitals. So you feel the same in the United Kingdom, the media and the medical assistance?
Absolutely. For us, we have the National Health Service. So we are entitled to have subsidized dental treatment and free at point of delivery, if you like, or entry into a hospital. Most of that treatment is free for us, and it was for the EU people as well. But this year, I've not had a dental appointment. Very few, I think it's 1 in 3 people have had dental treatment, and most of those people are covered under a private plan. But it's interesting because my town hasn't been able to see me. My dental surgery hasn't been able to see me. Yet they've just been advertising on Facebook for a new dental surgery in my town, and it's totally private. So I can see this total virtual collapse of the NHS. Same with the hospitals. You know, yes. I know lots of people who've, yes, and it also has a knock-on effect because of the cancer treatments being missed. You know, there's misdiagnosis. And I can see, I was just watching the news tonight, what they're working towards, as I see it, and I may be wrong, but it seems that with this testing, they can actually work out your DNA from that test. And so they're just going to be able to have total control over what your weaknesses are. And because they were just saying they can now diagnose, isn't this funny? After all this time, they can now diagnose 50 types of cancer from your DNA. So they will think they've got the right for you to live, to die. They're talking about vaccines for different groups of people. Yes. So, you know, it all seems very dubious to me. And the fact that they are pushing this through so quickly, and hardly anybody seems to be standing up and saying, nobody in the public, very few people in the public eye are actually saying anything about it. They'll focus on the masks, or yes, you know, yes. I mean, there's a legal guy in UK, and he's been sponsored, I believe, to take the government to task. But so he focuses on masks. I mean, that's just it's a nothingness compared to the bigger picture. And he wants safe vaccinations. In fact, the opposition politicians are saying, well, we're happy with safe vaccinations. They'll just pick a little bit. They won't cover a full picture. They'll talk about, vaccinations, but then they'll be supportive of climate change. And so there's nobody standing up for the people. Really nobody, because they all have vested interests, and they're trying to pretend they're with the people, but they're not. And you know, who wants to eat this man-made food? I mean, you'll be needing the hospital, I would imagine, if you're eating this food, which, according to the WEF report, it's got 11 times the glyphosate, of its nearest rival. Yes. It's going to have all this rubbish, and it's going to be, I know a lot of us eat a lot of rubbish, but Because I don't know if you come across Codex Alimentarius, where they put any old thing into food. They basically remove a lot of the nutrients out of our food. Yes. And that's worldwide. Yes. This is the World Trade Organization. They're all adhering to this feed them rubbish. So to me, if they're prepared to feed us rubbish, to spray us, to put fluoride in the water under the guise of, it gives you strong teeth, when it actually gives you dementia. It's like, well, surely they must be trying to kill us. There's no other explanation.
About that, I have a lot of questions to you about the vaccine, about the PCR tests, about the masks, about the symptomatics. I have my own opinion. We'll let you now make
Can I ask you some questions?
Yes.
So basically, how are you funding yourself then as a journalist, may I ask? Because if you're trying to speak the truth, is it easy for you to gain employment? Or is that a really nosy question?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I'm different from people, because I'm completely independent. Because as I told you, my degree is from education. So I became a journalist for many things that happened in my life, and I had the invitation to be a journalist. But I'm not working now as a journalist for any company, for nobody. So I'm completely independent. I can tell everything I want, and the government can't do anything to me, because I'm not a journalist. I don't have an entity to respond. So for me, that's easy. That's the easy part. But I have thousands of enemies, because this pandemic brings up to the surface one problem. Our society is now completely divided. People that really want the restrictions. Some want restrictions because they are really afraid of the virus. It's because the media shows every day hours and hours of people dying at the beds, the hospitals, the death numbers. It's like a torture. Completely, the media are killers here. But we have also people that want the restrictions for their own good, because they want to stay at home, working at home, because they are financially guaranteed, because they receive the money in the end of the month. So these are the one side of the pandemic. For the other side, we have people that are getting into misery completely. People dying, suicides. People are dying without medical assistance. People with unemployment. The restaurants are closing. The hotels are closing. The companies are closing, and that's really bad. So we have now our society is divided into these two parts, and this side of the Portuguese people that want the restrictions, they call us. I don't know the name. I will write here. Negationists.
Nationalists.
Yeah, I will write here, because I have the dictionary here. Negacion. In Portuguese, we say negacionista. Negacionista. I'll write here. Denialists. We are denialists, because they say that we don't believe in the virus, that we don't care about the virus. No, we care about the virus, and we believe in the virus, even if it's not isolated. Okay, even if the flu disappeared. Okay. But we know I know that there is a virus in the world, but we have to have the balance. We have to adjust the measures, because what we see is that the measures are not fair, because the real danger of this virus doesn't justify these so tough measures. These restrictions are unbelievable, but not for a little bit are unbelievable, because in Portugal, the number says the average deaths of COVID-19 persons are 81 years old. Okay, like the flu. The survival rate with the thousands of asymptomatic people are more than 99%. The survival rate of this virus it's amazing. Let me just finish this. In Portugal, 97% of the people makes the recovery at home. Like my sister, I already had a lot of members of my family with coronavirus. They are all okay. They recovered at home with paracetamol, with medical, eating oranges and like that. And the PCR tests are, like Cristiano Ronaldo said, they are bullshit, because I have heard a lot of people that make two tests at the same day, one negative, one positive. So that's impossible. And so with these numbers now, because in March we were all afraid, okay, about this. In March and in April we were all afraid, but now with these numbers, these measures, these restrictions, this killing of our freedom, the unemployment doesn't make sense. It's not possible. It's not fair. We want fair measures. We can't accept that the government takes the jobs of the people. No, we can't accept that. That's not acceptable. And the medical assistance also. I can tell you, the masks is now the last of my problem. I hate the masks. I don't use masks, but now it's the last of my problems, because we have higher problems. We have the freedom problems, we have the jobs, we have the medical assistance. But I don't believe why the government and why thousands of people doesn't see that. They are blind. I don't believe. For me, I cannot believe. So there are a lot of inconsistencies about this coronavirus. Myself, I don't want to take the vaccine. I don't want the vaccine because I don't believe a vaccine made so fast. So I don't believe. And I'm not afraid of coronavirus, because I have my parents. The age of my parents are 80 years old. They can die with the flu. They can die with the cold. We can die with the hot weather. They can die with a heart attack. They can die with everything. So if they can die with everything, of course they can die with COVID-19, because there is no eternal life. And this year, it seems that everybody believes that we will live forever. And that's, for me, that's unbelievable. So I'm sorry, I interrupt you. What you want to say?
No. I was just thinking that you were saying that something of yours went viral, one of your speeches, and I uncovered some slides, some PowerPoint slides. A friend of mine found them on the computer, and those slides were of a secret meeting held in the UK. So it was on Zoom. These slides were a Chatham House meeting. So that means they have to keep stum. But somebody must have had some conscience, and they actually uploaded all these slides on a unmarked, if you like, YouTube video. And these slides had a legal person, the police there, top police, top NHS, and so on. Now, it's a common purpose meeting. Now, I don't know, have you heard of common purpose before?
Yes.
So for anybody who's watching who doesn't know, it's probably the largest leadership company, skill company, training company in the world. And it's all done secretly, and people aren't supposed to say they've been on a common purpose course. And the courses are very expensive. And basically the people who go on these courses tend to, generally people of influence, key positions. They reckon that they would, in a council, they could get the head of planning and the head of legal, and they could actually shut a town down if you basically nobbled. That's a slang expression in the UK, nobbled each person individually. So I uncovered these slides, and they had nobbled police, legal, and so on. And this pertained primarily to Wales, but it was going to be talking about the rollout of 5G and the data collection. And one of the big four accountancy firms, Deloitte, UK, you'll have heard of Deloitte, like PwC,
yes.
you know, these companies.
Financial.
Yeah, according to these slides, basically somebody had given them permission to collect everybody's data. So to me, all these forms we fill in saying we don't wish our details to be disclosed, does anybody actually do anything with those forms if you want to opt out? Your data is being collected anyway.
Yes, we are losing our privacy completely. We are now numbers. We are like robots. But about the enemies, about the problems you told me, in Portugal, there are a lot of people that want me to go to jail. Can you believe that when I went to Sweden, some journalists here sent emails to the Portuguese embassy, to the Sweden authorities, to the Portuguese authorities to arrest me because I was trying to record some pictures, some images of an hospital, a public hospital in Sweden, to show the world that they don't use masks in the hospital. The patients doesn't use masks. The medical staff doesn't use masks. And I was trying to show that, but then so they want me to arrest. How is it about you? Do you have a lot of enemies in the United Kingdom, or they are fine with you?
Oh, there's lots. And the trouble is, you remember Lenin said, 100 years ago now, excuse me, he said, to be an effective government, you also have to be part of the opposition. So you've got all this controlled opposition. And in actual fact, that's the hardest fact to explain to people, because people will say, but he said this. He said the right things. And I'm saying, but no, he's not telling you the whole picture. Or, for example, I know I was covering something about military unification about 3 years ago. And I knew that we were supposed to go in, our military was supposed to go together with the other EU countries. And trying to get politicians, opposition politicians, to accept and to talk about it in the public. No. They would only, I approached them all, I know for a fact. And they would only produce that agenda. They would only talk about that narrative when they were obviously told to say it by the powers up there. They're in charge, or they think they're in charge. And yet, we are in the majority. We are the people who are suffering. And for me, I see the young people really suffering, because those are the people who have got high rents. They can never afford to buy a house. They've got the jobs in the pubs and the restaurants. A lot of the young people are in those sort of 0 hours contracts. They're the ones, you see, we have a royal family. I was going to say we had a royal family. On the truth movement, the royal family was a real wake-up call for me. I'd never heard that Prince Philip had said that when he passed away, he wanted to return to Earth as a virus. And he called us useless eaters. And yet you've got all these people in the UK. If the Queen and Prince Philip travelled past in a car, you'd see them waving the flags. And they don't realise that Prince Philip wanted to come back as a virus to kill the people. And that, something like that, people say you make this up.
The same with me, yeah. In Portugal, they call me a killer, they call me an assassin, because they say that my speech will result in deaths of a lot of people. But it's not true, because I really fight for our rights, for our freedom, and for example, for the mask. I don't say that we don't use mask. What I believe is if you want to use mask, it's okay to you. If you feel better to use a mask, okay. But I want that people can choose if they want to use mask or not use mask. In Portugal, they call me killer completely, but I don't care about that. I have to talk to you about Sweden, because Sweden was for me a huge surprise. I heard that in Sweden the measures are more soft, softer, but I couldn't believe in my eyes when I went to Stockholm. I saw a city that nobody even talks about COVID. There are no papers on the stores with COVID warnings. There are no masks. There are no alcohol gel to put in the hands. I saw a happy people, happy country, and I didn't felt that there is a pandemic there. Of course, there were no a lot of crowd. There were no crowds, and they are different from the rest of the world, because I didn't hear the car horning. I didn't. It's different. It's all completely different from my country. I know. Yeah, I know for sure. But it was amazing for me, because if they don't use masks, if they don't close on lockdowns, they should be all dying. The whole country, the coronavirus should be killing everybody, but not. They have more deaths than Portugal, okay, but no, the people are not all dying, and they are happy. They enter the stores without masks. They talk. They go to the pubs. Okay, they have some restrictions. For example, now they can drink alcohol from 10:30 or in the evening. But the pubs still are still open. They are making the tea parties, so they drink tea instead of alcohol. But I didn't see stores closed. I didn't see the business closed. I saw everything working in Portugal. I see people, restaurants closing, the hotels closing, people getting crazy, and it's like a different planet. I went to a different planet for in these 3 days, and my videos about Sweden, they are also viral on Brazil. It's amazing, because in Brazil they have the same fight of us, and they are crazy about the Sergio Tavares videos in Sweden, more than in Portugal. In Portugal, we had thousands of shares, but in Brazil, the deputies, the singers, the YouTubers, they all share my videos from Sweden. That's why I'm going to China, to Wuhan, and the other countries like Norway, like Belarus, like Estonia, to show that it's possible to live in a pandemic times without kill everybody, without take the jobs, without killed our mental health. I'm doing everything that I can do. Everything.
I applaud you. I think that's amazing. I've still got a flight that I could come over. I was supposed to go to Lisbon in March for a big meeting, and it was cancelled because of the lockdown. So I still have a flight to come over to see you in Portugal. But I don't want to get vaccinated, and I don't want to be tested. Certainly don't want to be tested either, as I say, because it's a DNA collection service. And what I see is that they're going to want a big database. Because you see, up until now, you've got different local authorities, and I guess not all their computer systems are in tip-top condition. So it's so much easier if they get all the data in this testing now, and then they can do whatever they want with it. And you know, this meeting, this secret meeting, they actually said on the slides that they were being dishonestly honest. And there was even a comment to say if people didn't want to be vaccinated, people might have to be sedated. And then the police were saying, you know, and it's like, whoa, that is well out of order. And I wouldn't like to be the person with a needle that attempts to stick it in me. I mean, what would you do? Stick it back in them? So you get done for assault. So why aren't they getting done for assault? It's, I really don't know. I mean, I obviously have a faith. I do believe that this time on Earth, thankfully, is possibly only a small part of eternity. Yeah. So I do think, and whether you have faith or not, it does help to have a positive attitude. But it's very easy to get dragged in. And when I sit and watch the television on the rare occasion, I think I'm in a parallel universe. I don't know about you, because of this, there is nobody. Yeah, I mean, even the opposition politicians, they will.
Yeah, there are no opposition. There are no opposition now.
No opposition at all. It's interesting you talked about Sweden, though, because I mean, I haven't been to Sweden for many years, but of course, I was in Denmark 4 years ago now after the referendum, and I spoke to a selection of Danish people, and they were actually very scared of Sweden. They were very scared of Sweden because of the huge numbers of immigrants that they had at that time, I guess, and there were certainly no-go areas in parts of Stockholm. So they were scared. They would have loved to have voted to leave the European Union, but they do so much trade with Germany that they feared doing the same as us. But you knew that they really cared about the British people, because we have links. We have links with particularly Denmark, and we have lots of links with Portugal as well. Yeah. I mean, we love the Portugal, and same with the Greeks. We have we've got a relationship. Our history goes back way back, and I loved going to Portugal. So I don't know why Sweden though, they have had people already chipped, haven't they? So
small shift.
Yeah, you see. But I mean, what proportion have been chipped?
But I made a lot of interviews with the Swedish people, and they are all proud of the way that Sweden are facing this pandemic. They are very proud to be different. They cannot imagine their to be closed at home. Even the elderly people, they don't imagine that. They say that for some of the people we talked, they said that even these small restrictions wouldn't be necessary for them. So the Swedish like these differences of the Swedish government and for the rest of the world. They are really proud. I saw them proud, and I saw happy people going shopping. It's about the vaccine. What I'm hearing here, that some governments are making like kind of blackmail, because they say if you don't take the vaccine, you can't travel on a plane. If you don't have the vaccine, you can't go to this public job. So this is blackmail. This is completely blackmail, and I cannot accept that. For example, Brazil, the president said that it will not be mandatory. But we are in a huge problem here, because they will do everything to put it mandatory to us, indirectly.
Well, we've also, I look far ahead as well, or maybe to next year anyway. I just did a little chat this morning about our food security, because for us, I mean, the whole of the world is looking at us because we were supposed to be trying to leave the European Union. Nobody's actually told us whose regulations, whose laws we're going to be following on the 1st of January. And of course, we get a lot of our trade through the tunnel, the Eurotunnel. And, I'm looking at the logistics here, because the government has been hanging on and not telling the companies what position they will be in from the 1st of January. And then all of a sudden, the advertisements appear about less than a month ago saying, right, you've got to prepare no deal Brexit, get your paperwork in order. And I'm just thinking, my goodness, some of these businesses, the small businesses, medium businesses who don't necessarily have a lot of cash now, especially through the lockdown. They've probably been in deficit all year and with staff on furlough, and they're expected to suddenly change everything that they do because the government, if we go with no deal, and I know Brexiteers will curse me for saying this, remember, I was the person who travelled and argued with all those politicians and sometimes got really, some really difficult audiences, especially in the schools. I was the person who'd say, we should leave because we can take back control. We can write our own rules and we can control immigration. What happened in the summer, I was visiting after lockdown, I was visiting an area and to see friends and relatives. And somebody said, oh, there's a hotel in the area. And I didn't go on the premises. I stood outside and just watched. And this 4-star hotel had all the people in that 4-star hotel were men aged, I would say, between 18 and late 20s. That's it. And I asked, when one came out onto the public highway, I said, where are you from? But it was quite obvious that these people were not fleeing war-torn countries, but they were getting £40 a week. They obviously had clothes provided for them, mobile phones, and playing football in the grounds. And that video actually almost topped 1 million, pretty much in the UK. So it was real. And, they say, oh, that's harassment. How can it be harassment if, like you were saying, I'm on a public highway and I care about how taxpayers' money is being spent? Nobody was wearing a mask. So, you were saying about the hospitals. Our politicians have been filmed, even recently, no masks.
Yeah, it's the same in Portugal. Behind the walls, they don't use masks. They don't do this social distance. But when they make the rules, there are always exceptions. The politicians, the deputies, they are the exceptions. So if I can't go to a different city, the politicians can go. The law makes the exception. So this is unbelievable. Can I ask you about? You talk about the youngsters. For me, it's unbelievable to have a closed at home, healthy people, healthy people, young people closed at home without studies, not going to the school, not working. That's unbelievable, because what I think that we should preserve and just close at home people that are vulnerable, people that the elderly people with problems. Okay, let's take some care of them. But the other peoples, the healthy peoples, they must go and work and live. I cannot accept that, because and I also don't believe in symptomatics. The symptomatics issue for me, I'm not a from medicine, but it doesn't make sense. How can I be asymptomatic of something? I'm asymptomatic of everything. I'm asymptomatic of flu. I'm asymptomatic of pneumonia. I don't know. I don't believe that. I don't believe in asymptomatic people. I believe that if you are sick, okay, or you are sick, or you are not sick. But being sick without being sick, I don't believe that.
I know, all these people it's like the politicians. Oh, they've tested positive. They just fancied a fortnight off, so they don't do anything. I mean, Boris Johnson, I call him Doris, and he's a very dishevelled prime minister. I guess with our prime ministers, they were chosen when they were at school. They were groomed. David Cameron, one of his a previous prime minister, they were told at their public educated schools, you will be a future prime minister. So the thing is, right, even before the COVID, there were many of us who would do very well in certain jobs, but we never were given the opportunity. And it's not just about whether you have private education. That is actually a smokescreen. In fact, everything we've sort of been brought up to talk about and to learn about, it's all been a total lie. It's not about all privately educated people get the top jobs. No, these are people who come from a certain background, shall we say, and I won't say it openly, but these people head the media, they head the judicial system, and that does not give. So there aren't really the real aspirations for children, and that was before COVID. So yes, they're trying to remove from society because the elderly, because they haven't costed for their pensions for a start. And I know that for a fact because I've met actuaries that cost for pensions in the State Department, and they say, oh, we haven't costed for those 3 million people that have just come in from another country. So I know they haven't got the money allocated, if you like, to pay people's pensions. That's the reason why people are one of the reasons why they're having to retire later and later. And so if a particular age group are going to have a certain vaccination, in fact, you know that private meeting I said to you about that happened earlier on in the year? Well, one of the person who ran it admitted that the people in the UK had been given the wrong flu vaccination into 2019. And apparently a lot of people suffered from a feeling of broken glass in their throats. Somebody wrote to me this week and said that's exactly how they're suffering now after having that flu vaccination. So, you know, the more I think about it, I really regret having children vaccinated because what I know now. And so you want to, when you know the truth, you want to tell everybody, just like you're doing. I mean, we're both teachers and we try to work at different levels of understanding because we've got different audiences. So I hope we can get message through to maybe a bigger audience tonight. And it's great that we've got two countries that we need to work, stand side by side.
Yes, we have to join our forces. About that, in Italy, that happens in March because a lot of people died, wrongly ventilated. We talked about some Italian people that said that the death rate in Italy was increased a lot because they didn't know how to manage all the people with COVID-19, and they're all ventilated wrongly. And many people died with that procedure. I want to ask you about the United Kingdom, because in Portugal, the media said that in the beginning, Boris Johnson, we call him the canary in Portugal, a canary because they are a canary, the bird. Do you know the yellow bird?
The canary.
Yeah,
that's
because
too nice for him.
Boris Johnson's hair is like a canary, like but in Portugal, the media said that that in the beginning Boris Johnson didn't care about the virus, and then some after the numbers increased a lot, he was very concerned. How it happened on that time? Why it was real that in the beginning Boris Johnson was not say like Bolsonaro, it's just a flu. And we don't care, but then he changed his speech. Why is that change?
I think there was in the March just before the lockdown. Now I think it was Boris Johnson and his partner went to the races. I believe it was either a rugby match or the races, and so the race course said they were told to keep the race going, and then the lockdown came after that particular race meeting. Seriously.
Yeah, that's
And you know, yeah, and you know, they were busy passing an act within days in March to make sure that they didn't have two doctors' signatures on death certificates, because we had a very notable, important case here. I don't know if you've heard of him, a man called Harold Shipman, and he was a doctor, and he killed over 200 people. And they basically changed the rules so that they would need two doctors' signatures on a death certificate, so they could never have a repeat performance of Harold Shipman killing lots of people. So so then they changed the rules to suit the coronavirus, so they could it basically get people cremated without any evidence later, you know, because people were so, you know, the Project Fear. If you're just losing a loved one, the last thing you're going to do, generally speaking, is kick up a stink and say, I want a post-mortem. I don't believe this. A lot of people, especially when they're in care homes, they don't really know the truth, especially because of lockdown. They weren't seeing their relatives. So it was all very, very convenient to send people that were infected away from the hospitals and back into the care homes. And they didn't necessarily always have the wherewithal to isolate those patients, which they would have been able to do in a hospital. It's so shocking. But many of those 50,000 deaths have not come from the flu at all. They've been wrongly recorded. The government has sort of admitted it's been wrongly recorded, but they won't investigate, because, you know, the investigations will find them all guilty. But they're guilty on so many charges that, you know, you can't, they must be thinking, there's an expression, they're going to be hung for a sheep as opposed to being hung for a lamb. What can you do to them? They're just throwing the book at us now. It's not going to make any difference.
Yeah. About the care homes in Portugal, in March, everybody thought that the coronavirus would kill all the elderly people that caught the virus, but not in Portugal. For example, we had a care home with 80 patients, and they're all infected, but just 5 died and 75 survived. So that's amazing how elderly can survive this killing virus. So, but that happened in all the care homes in Portugal. That's why I was looking at it and asking myself, well, this is not the killing virus that the world said, because even the people with 18 years old survive, 19 years old survive. So this is not the end of the world.
It's true. It's like, well, they've got another 6 months to live, and then they will die. So they've got to die sometime.
Yeah, if they survive, well, this is not the killing machine. Well, we in Portugal there are a lot of people protesting from every month, more and more every month. More and more people are protesting, rallies and protests. This week I went into a protest, but in the United Kingdom I saw really big protests in the Trafalgar Square. A lot of thousands of people. Do you think that in the next weeks and next months that they will go to the streets and fight and the protest, or the government are silent, are making them be silent?
Well, the thing is, this is very controversial, because these events are organized, they're orchestrated. You have to have insurance. You have to write to the government. So the government knows everything you do.
They don't care.
So they don't care. And, you know, if, as I say, Lenin said, you control the opposition. So it's really very feasible to have government agents milling around and having the money and the wherewithal to set up these groups. I mean, one group was set up with the best of intentions, and then the original people in that group got kicked out. You know, the cuckoo. And then there's other people take over, and then they organise events. And I think a lot of these events are actually attached to gathering information to do with artificial intelligence. So, you know, there's it's like a honey trap, and you know, people think it's genuine. What does it achieve? In 2001, 1 million people went to London to protest against Tony Blair's entry into the Iraq War.
1 million.
What happened? Nothing changed. Tony Blair is this is to do with common purpose. You know, he's been in charge of the civil service, it would appear, all this time. He's had a parallel government in the UK all this time. And you'll get people on here who'll say, that's rubbish, that's rubbish. The chances are that they will be people who've been on a common purpose course themselves. And so you see, it's not necessarily just the 1% elites, but those elites have shared money, paid other people in various societies and organizations. So maybe it's not the 99%, not quite the 99%, because other people, you know, they've sold their soul for some silver, and that's we can't bring those on board. We can't get everybody.
Yes, in Portugal it's the same. The government doesn't care about the protests because there are so few people. It's like 1% of the votes. So they don't care because 99% are happy. They're not happy, but they don't go to the streets. So the government doesn't care with that 1% that are fighting in the streets. We need to join together and go. Everybody goes to the streets. The youngsters, the parents, the unemployment people. If you don't do that, they will not listen to us. But in Portugal, we have a problem because it's the people that are asking for restrictions. This plan is so amazing that even it's the own people that are asking to be closed at home. Yes, in half of the Portuguese are asking for restrictions. They are so afraid of the virus. They ask the government to take measures. They ask the government to close the stores. They ask the government to make lockdowns. And they don't care about the other peoples that will suffer with that. So in Portugal, it's real. People are asking for the killing of their own freedom. Is amazing. That's why this problem is so deep, so difficult to solve.
Yes, you're right, because in the UK, by 2016, for the referendum, people were either for leaving the European Union or for staying in. It was really, really straightforward, black and white. Now you've got people scattered in all directions. You've got some people who want to wear masks. Do you know, some people are fighting against 5G. Some people care about climate change and don't care about 5G, which is really strange, and so on. So it's all being watered down. It's all being diluted, and as you say, it's the elderly could be culled. They don't want to pay the pensions. The youngsters, they will end up with no hope if we don't stop this madness. Suicides. Children are self-harming like never before. We've just had the Duchess of Cambridge on television this evening, and her and her husband have been collating information about mental health issues for several months now. Well, this is the New World Order. They want to make sure that your children are as Well, they don't care about the children, do they? They want to take the children off the parents.
They are dependent.
Yeah.
Children are now dependent of the technology, the iPads, the phones, the PlayStation. They are dependent. They are close at home, and they depend on technologies, and that's wrong. That's completely wrong. I'm very sad. I have two children, and they couldn't go to the school for 4 months, and I'm a teacher, so we went to the fall forest. I teach them the lessons, but for the other parents, I cannot imagine the time that the children spent with the technologies, because parents couldn't have time and patience to deal with them. So they are killing the childhood, and that's for me that it hurts my heart.
I mean, I've got friends whose children have just gone off to university, and I know that the government were planning to do a lockdown as soon as they got their feet under the table at university, because it's a business. And you know, it's these students still don't realize, they don't understand that this was all planned, and they've signed up to spend £9,000 a year plus their accommodation on a degree that is really, now the way that things are going with the World Economic Forum and the way our governments are working, there will not be the employment. The only work will be, well, there probably won't be any care work, because well, I don't have to explain that, but well, not care work for elderly anyway. And what other work will there be? There won't be any bar work. And you've got your children. I think your children are younger than mine.
Yeah, they are here. Before we finish, because we are 1 hour and 11 minutes.
Wow.
My final message is that I'm really sad, because our government doesn't take care of us. They are not taking care of us. In Portugal, let me just.
Well, I was going to say that our government is now becoming very clear about the plans to tax us next year on just about everything. And we even have a businessman in the UK that has machinery to remove the carbon dioxide out of the air and form diamonds with it. Yeah, and this is somebody from the green energy department, you know. So these people, these millionaires, just become richer and richer. The banks keep getting bailed out, because this is what it is. This is a multi-agenda situation. We've got a culling of the populations, and we've got a banks to bail out, because people don't realize that that money in your pocket has actually no value whatsoever.
Of course not. What I think is that why the government is not taking care of us, because, for example, in Portugal, after 9 months, the balance is completely wrong. So we have more deaths non-COVID indirectly for lack of medical assistance than for COVID-19. We have a lot of people without jobs, where a lot of people getting crazy, with a lot of children getting crazy, parents getting crazy. People are getting hungry. People don't have money to go to the supermarket, and this is completely unbalanced. This is not completely fair. And what I ask you, how they don't see that? If they are politicians, if they are so important, how they don't see something so basic, so that's it. It's amazing. I will ask you one final question. How do you see the future? Because we're now on autumn, so we'll have the winter coming. So we have a lot of months. The next months will be tough and difficult. So how you see the future for now?
The government's already said we're going to have a long, hard winter. And the fact that we are leaving the European Union without a deal, that will be part of that long, hard winter. We also have the decommissioning of a power plant. It started in July and won't be finished till 2022. And there won't be sufficient power to replace the power we lose. And in fact, the energy grid just tweeted a couple of days ago exactly the message that I've been talking about. We will be subjected to, there will be problems. There could be problems. Let's be diplomatic. They're going to be. So if they're saying, there could be some problems, that means there will be some problems. So I just think prep, pray, and somebody up there created you all, and just get on your knees. That's my message. And it's going to take something this bad to get so many people to say, well, please. I mean, I was friends with an atheist, and his wife got rushed into hospital. She had a heart attack. She was vastly overweight. I said, would you like me to pray for her? And he said, yes, please. And that's what happens when things get so bad that you get atheists saying, yes, please. And I prayed for her. And she came out of hospital that day. So that's all I would ask people to do. Make sure that you keep in touch with all your loved ones, and not just the people that you love. There's people who are really lonely out there.
Yes.
I've seen a mood change. People get very snappy, and there will be. I used to feed the homeless. I was attached to a church. I used to feed the homeless, and I see that far more people are using the food banks now than ever before. And we need to think about those people as well, and help them.
What I think, we already had a different virus before. This is a virus now. We will have new virus in the future. We can't do this. We can't put our head in the sand and forget everything. No. So we have to think positive. In Portugal, I will fight for this. I will fight. I don't mind if they arrest me. I will go to China. After China, we can talk again about my experience.
Yeah, please. Will you take some pictures, and will you send me some pictures while you're in China?
Yeah, I will make some live records. So in my Facebook, in my page, Journalists for the Truth, in Wuhan, and I hope I can understand a little bit better why this is happening and what is happening, because this doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. So, Caroline, thank you for this talk. I didn't know that I could speak English for 1 hour, 1 hour and 17 minutes. I'm better at Spanish and Portuguese, but it's okay. Well, thank you, Caroline. See you next time after I came from China.
Brilliant. Boa noite.
Yes. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, okay. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.